So you know that picture of Gio Reyna from one of his press conferences after a World Cup qualifier? Yeah, that about sums up everything. This was my exact reaction, the same exact face I made when I heard the news. Gregg Berhalter is returning to coach the U.S. men's national team. Oh, yeah, woo! USMNT Twitter is really gonna love this move. First of all, weird timing for this news to come out, right? Like this being leaked basically at kickoff of a USA-Mexico game. It reminded me a couple years ago of when it was leaked that Colts quarterback Andrew Luck was retiring during a preseason Colts game. Everyone started booing him when he left the field. Man, I felt so bad for him. Like those fans should have been there to enjoy the game. Not for this kind of news. I saw some people were mad at Paul Tenorio for sharing this when he did, calling him a USMNT shill. Come on, man, give me a break. Unfortunately, this is just the nature of his job, and if it wasn't him who leaked the news, it would have been someone else. I wish there was some kind of unwritten rule in journalism not to break news like this during a game, but that'll never happen. I'm not blaming the messenger here. But anyways, this news totally caught me off guard. I did not think it was happening. But I'm going to try to look at this situation from all angles. I'm going to criticize Gregg when I need to and praise him when I need to. I made an unpopular USMNT opinions video a little while back before the World Cup. And I said, Gregg Berhalter has been okay. I didn't say he was great. I didn't even say he was good. I said he was okay. And yet there were still people who damn near had an aneurysm in the comment section telling me how wrong I was about him. But you know what? I stand by what I say. Sure, some of Gregg's selections drove me crazy. I'm still mad about Pepe getting snubbed for the World Cup. But he ushered in this new era, this so-called golden generation. That was not an easy task because even though the talent level might be higher than ever, the team is still really young and not used to the rugged play and shit conditions of CONCACAF. He was also really good at convincing the dual nationals to pick the US. We have to give him some sort of credit for landing a lot of these players. And he got results, even if they weren't always pretty. The US did get out of the group stage at the World Cup. Is that the bare minimum to achieve? Well, I mean, I would like to think so, but then again, some teams like Germany and Belgium couldn't even accomplish that, so it's still an accomplishment. And also, people say that he was outcoached and outclassed in the Netherlands round of 16 match, but the thing I remember the most in that game was the US missing premium chances and making really bad defensive mistakes. I ain't blaming Berhalter on that one. But maybe most importantly of all, whether you like to believe it or not, the players fought for him. A lot of the guys liked Berhalter, and I'm not just talking about the lifelong MLSers. After the Nations League semifinal against Mexico, this was said. Today is a testament of the work that Gregg Berhalter put into this team. If that's not enough evidence, then that's all right. People are going to hate no matter what. That wasn't said by me. That wasn't said by a Berhalter-loving media member. That was said by Christian Pulisic, Captain America himself. Timothy Weah has also shown high praise for him, as did Walker Zimmerman. Of course, there are also players that didn't love Berhalter, but that's to be expected. I'm sure there was players that didn't love Sir Alex Ferguson either. Now, with all of that being said, do you want my honest opinion on this hiring? Well, I don't love it. I think Berhalter did his job. I thank him for his service. But I thought it was time to move on. I just don't know how much better the team can get under Berhalter. And in general, I think most coaches should have just one World Cup cycle, unless they make a super deep run like to the semis or maybe the quarters. This second time around just never seems as good as the first. And I think a lot of it is just because it starts to get stale. I know, real hard-hitting analysis right there. But you just get to a point where even when you start bringing in new players, you know what to expect. And other teams know what to expect too. You look at previous cases with the US. You see Bruce Arena made the quarterfinals in the 2002 World Cup and then crashed out in the group stages in 2006. I know, it was the group of death, they did good in qualifying, but even still. Bob Bradley made the round of 16 in 2010 and then didn't even make it to Hex qualifying for the next World Cup. as he was fired shortly after losing the Gold Cup final in 2011. And then Jurgen Klinsmann also made the round of 16, but then got fired during the hex stage for the World Cup qualifying in 2018. And yeah, even if he did stay on instead of being replaced by Bruce Arena, the end result still would have been the same. The US still would have missed out on the 2018 World Cup. I knew that Berhalter would be gone if the US failed to escape the group stages. I also knew he would be back if they made the quarters. I wasn't sure what would happen if the US just made it to the round of 16. And then Renegade happened, which was a really bad look for everyone involved, except for, Gio Reyna himself. And I figured, okay, well, that'll probably do it. Berhalter is gone now. And then it was announced that some of the higher up positions in US soccer were being replaced, and I figured, okay, well, that's just more proof that he's gone. They're going to want to start with a clean slate. And then it was announced that Berhalter would be stepping away and Anthony Hudson would fill in for the interim, and I figured, okay, well, that must mean that Berhalter is now actively looking for other jobs himself, so now it's set in stone that he's gone. And then rumors came out that Jesse Marsch would be announced as the next USMNT head coach after the Gold Cup, and I figured, okay, well, yeah, that seems like the next logical move. And then it was confirmed that Berhalter was in talks to become the next Club America head coach, and I figured, okay, well, yeah. See ya, Greg. And then it was announced he was coming back.
What? What the fuck?
I am extremely surprised, and a little annoyed too. Because what was the point of the last 6 months? Okay, so both US Soccer and Gregg Berhalter wanted to weigh their options. I get that. But 6 months? It took 6 months just to end up with Gregg again? Not to mention, it took over a year to hire him in the first place after the debacle of failing to qualify for the 2018 World Cup. God, why do these kind of things just take so long with US Soccer? I know, the new people at US Soccer wanted to be thorough with their decision-making process. I can respect that. But the bottom line is that the process should have been quicker. Telling everyone that every coach needed a psych evaluation? Come on, is anyone really taking that seriously? Sure, I wanted someone new in charge, but if it was going to be Berhalter, he should have been reconnected to this team sooner, and he should have been coaching this team for these tournaments this summer. The fact that he hasn't spoken to Gio Reyna or Ricardo Pepi for months is frustrating. These are guys that are going to play big roles for the US, and they both feel hard done by both US Soccer and Gregg himself. Discussions to try and mend this relationship should have already started. Truthfully, I think I'm more upset about this than about the actual hiring of Gregg Berhalter. Apparently, there were 12 candidates for this job, with Jesse Marsch and Patrick Vieira among some of the final candidates. I gotta be honest, I don't know if either would be better than Gregg. Maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't. But some people really had unrealistic expectations for who the new coach was gonna be. I never for a second thought Pep Guardiola or Jose Mourinho was gonna take this job. And I don't even think it's a money issue, like Charlie Davies might suggest. I just don't think this is that great of a job. I know, the US is hosting the World Cup and Copa America, that's cool, and living in America is pretty baller. But those guys want to win. And I love our players, but we ain't Argentina. At least not yet. Alright, how are we doing on time? Oh, okay, not bad. Still some time left for me to get canceled. You ready for this? USMNT fans, man, you guys love to bitch. And inevitably, by nature, people will look to pin all of their problems on one person. 2014 it was Wando, 2018 it was Sunil Gulati, and 2022 was Gregg Berhalter. I know people say Gregg Berhalter needed to be more flexible and less rigid with his system. That's actually something I kind of disagree with. You only get a small window of training and a few games before players leave to go back to their clubs. Sure, you can mess around with different ideas during friendlies, but when it comes to tournaments, you have to have your mind made up, and you have to pick a system to get everyone on board. If people were mad at Berhalter's 4-3-3, they would eventually get mad at Jesse Marsch's 4-2-2-2. No matter who gets hired, people are gonna end up pissed off. And I thought it was so funny that some people that said Berhalter was just an average MLS coach actually vouched for Thierry Henry to become the head coach of the USMNT. Dude, he had a worse record in MLS than Berhalter. And do I really need to tell you how his other coaching stints have gone so far? I will reiterate, I am not thrilled that Gregg Berhalter is coming back, especially after watching these last 2 Nations League matches. I mean, the USMNT looked great. And if they don't stay looking this good with Gregg, questions gotta be asked. But I'm not going to root for his demise just so I can say, I told you so. The amount of anger people have for Berhalter is, dare I say, a little over the top. Just as US Soccer was reaching with some of their justifications to bring him back, some people are really reaching with their justifications to call him the worst coach of all time. Oh, what's that? His record away from home wasn't good? Yeah, that should matter, but it doesn't. Why? Because the World Cup and Copa America, tournaments which the US are already qualified for, are both being played in the US, as is every CONCACAF Gold Cup and every CONCACAF Nations League. There are literally no meaningful away games for the next 4 years. Gregg Berhalter is who he is. He's going to make some head-scratching roster decisions. He's going to seem inflexible at times, but that's every international manager. Every manager has their guys. It's unfortunately just a part of life. And honestly, hot take, I don't think international coaches play as big of a role to the team's success or failure as the quality of players do. And luckily for us, the standard of the quality of players for the US is pretty damn high now. If I were to put my feelings on this hiring onto a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being I totally support this hiring and 10 being I'm so against this hiring I'm ready to burn down all of the USMNT headquarters, I'd be at like a 6 or 7. I'm not happy about it, but there's still reason for optimism. I think it's safe to say that most of USMNT Twitter is at a 9 or 10. Even with Greggy in charge, we have a lot to look forward to. Maybe it all crashes and burns. That would suck, but I also think there's a possibility that the team plays better than they've ever played before. But seriously, 6 months to make this decision? Fucking 6 months just to bring back Gregg?